Welcome back to our channel, where ordinary people do extraordinary things. Sometimes with nothing more than a notebook, a rainy night, and the courage to be kind when no one's watching. In today's story, we meet Lena Collins, a struggling intern, a quiet writer, and a young woman who never expected her words to matter. But when one act of kindness catches the attention of a powerful media executive, her life takes a turn she never could have written for herself. She gave up her umbrella for a stranger in the rain, and within days, her kindness turned her into the center of a media storm. But when a powerful editor took notice, not for her looks, not for her resume, but for her heart, everything changed. What started as a quiet act of compassion became a story the entire city couldn't stop talking about. Stay with us as we unfold a story about voices that were never meant to be heard, and the girl who made the world listen. Now let's begin. The rain had no intention of stopping that evening. It fell in cold sheets across Manhattan, slicking sidewalks and fogging the windows of expensive cafes. Lena Collins tightened her thrift store jacket around her thin frame, one hand gripping a manila envelope. Her boots, soaked to the lining, squelched with every step. She checked her watch. 6:48 p.m. The Whitmore Media Building was only 2 blocks away, but the wind made it feel like 10. At the crosswalk, a sudden cry froze her in place. "Hey, please wait." Lena turned. Huddled beneath the awning of a jewelry store was a girl, no older than 17, wearing nothing but a torn hoodie and sneakers with no laces. Her lips trembled. One arm was clutching a crumpled backpack, the other shielding her eyes from the rain. I'm sorry, but could I just borrow your umbrella for a minute? Just to get to the shelter across the street. They're about to close the doors. Lena hesitated for only a second before handing the umbrella over. "Take it," she said. "Run. Don't look back." The girl gave a tiny gasp and whispered, "Thank you." Lena smiled, watching her dart across the street before turning back into the storm, shivering as the wind lashed her skin. Inside the gleaming lobby of Whitmore Media, the contrast hit her like a slap. Warmth, golden lights, the clean scent of citrus and mahogany. The security desk gleamed like polished marble. "ID?" the guard asked, eyes immediately narrowing at her appearance. I'm just here to drop off something for Mr. Gillen," she said, lifting the envelope. "Ma'am, are you aware this is private property? I'm an intern," she added quickly. "3rd floor. Editorial." The guard didn't budge. "Step aside, please." Before she could explain further, 2 impeccably dressed women approached the counter. One of them, blonde and gleaming like a social media influencer, gave Lena a once-over and let out a soft snicker. "Looks like someone got lost on their way to a soup kitchen," she said to her friend, just loud enough. Lena felt her cheeks burn. Her soaked jacket dripped onto the pristine floor. The guard made a motion toward the door. Then, a voice cut through the lobby like a clean blade. "Is there a problem here?" Everyone turned. A tall man in a charcoal gray coat stood just beyond the turnstiles, a leather satchel slung casually over one shoulder. He was younger than Lena expected, early 30s maybe, and walked with the kind of confidence people didn't learn they were born with. "Miles," the blonde said with a bright, rehearsed smile. "We were just..." But Miles Thatcher didn't look at her. His eyes were fixed on Lena. "She's with Whitmore?" he asked the guard. "She claims to be, sir." Miles looked at the envelope in her hand. "Intern packet?" Lena nodded, unsure whether to speak. "Let her through," he said calmly. "She works harder than anyone else here." The guard's mouth opened, then closed. Lena stepped past, barely able to breathe. As she passed Miles, he didn't smile or nod. He simply said under his breath, "Kindness never looks like it belongs until the moment it does." And then he walked away. The elevator felt too quiet. Lena stood at the back, water dripping from the hem of her jeans, her reflection warping in the polished chrome. Her heart still beat in a flutter, part adrenaline, part disbelief. "He remembered me?" she thought. Not just remembered. Miles Thatcher, senior editor of Whitmore Media, the guy everyone whispered about but barely spoke to, had spoken up for her. Kindness never looks like it belongs until the moment it does. The words clung to her, warm and uncomfortable at once. She stepped out onto the third floor, where half-empty coffee cups and muted computer screens hummed beneath a blanket of late-night fatigue. The editorial bullpen was nearly deserted. Lena slipped the envelope into Mr. Gillen's tray, then quietly returned to her tiny intern desk, a corner cubicle nestled beside the printer, where no one ever looked but everyone dumped extra drafts. She opened her laptop and stared at the blinking cursor on a document titled Voices in the Rain, a series of unheard stories. It wasn't assigned. No one even knew it existed. It was something she'd worked on in bits and pieces between copy editing and coffee runs. A quiet collection of short profiles, homeless teens, shelter workers, night shift janitors. No flashy headlines, just the voices she'd passed every day. One profile was still open on her screen. Her name is Avi. She doesn't like being called homeless. She says she's in between homes, in between hopes. She used to write poems in a spiral notebook until someone stole it. She misses the paper more than the shelter. Lena sighed. Maybe it was all too personal, too soft. The kind of story this company wouldn't touch unless it came with scandal or statistics. She hovered over the delete button. Don't. The voice came from behind her. Calm. Male. Familiar. Lena nearly dropped her laptop. She turned. Miles Thatcher stood just outside her cubicle, one hand tucked in his coat pocket, the other holding a coffee cup with a crooked lid. I didn't know you were still here, Lena stammered. Could say the same, he replied, stepping closer. But I'm glad you are. He reached into his coat and pulled out something folded, a printed copy of her story. She froze. How did you? Pulled it from the server. It was in the orphan draft folder. She felt the blood drain from her face. I didn't mean for anyone to read it yet. You wrote something that made me stop scrolling, he said simply. That doesn't happen often. Lena looked down, unsure whether to be mortified or honored. It's not polished, she muttered. It's real, Miles replied. And sometimes that's harder. Pause. Then he handed her a card. Miles Thatcher, Senior Editor, Special Features. Write the rest, he said. I'll run it. Blog section first, then syndication if it lands. Deadline's Monday. Lena stared at the card like it was an artifact from another universe. I'm just an intern. He shrugged. So was I. Then he left, the hum of the elevator swallowing his exit. Lena sat there long after he was gone, staring at her screen, the cursor blinking not as a threat, but an invitation. For the first time, her voice had a place to go. Monday came faster than Lena expected. Rain gave way to wind, and the city moved as if it didn't care about the subtle shifts in someone's life. The blog post had gone live that morning under a modest headline. The Girl Beneath the Awning by Lena Collins. By lunch, it had 3,000 shares. By 3 p.m., it had caught the attention of Whitmore Media's social team, who started crafting Instagram reels and pull quotes with moody grayscale backgrounds. Lena sat frozen in her cubicle, eyes wide as the numbers ticked up like a stock market board. She had never seen her name in that font before. Clean, serifed, elevated. Just before 4 p.m., Jade Mercer sauntered over, her heels clicking like punctuation marks. Well, look who found her savior complex, she said, holding her phone out. The post was open on the screen. I read your little story. Very Nicholas Sparks meets Inner City. Sweet. Lena tried to keep her voice even. It's not fiction. Jade gave a half smile. Oh, I know. That's what makes it adorable. Her gaze sharpened. Just be careful, Lena. Stories like this, they make people feel things they don't want to feel, especially the ones holding the budgets. Then she walked off, a hint of bitterness in the flick of her ponytail. Lena exhaled, trying to remind herself not to shrink. This is about the story, not me. But the story had become about her, whether she wanted it or not. That evening, she stopped by the shelter to find Avi. The staff at the desk looked up. You the journalist? One asked. Lena flinched. Sort of, just a friend. She hasn't been here since Friday, the woman said. Dropped off a bag of books and disappeared. You want to leave a note? Lena scribbled a message and tucked it into an envelope, adding her number at the bottom. On the walk home, the city felt colder. Not from the wind, but from the way people looked at her differently now. Like she wasn't invisible anymore. When she got to her apartment, her inbox had over 40 unread messages. One subject line caught her eye. Who gave you permission to publish this? It was from a blocked address. Then another ping came in. This one from Miles Thatcher. Ignore the noise. Don't back down. You told the truth. That matters more than their permission. She didn't know how he knew, but somehow he always seemed to know. And for the first time, Lena realized, telling someone else's story might cost her more than she thought, but hiding it would have cost even more. The next morning, the office was louder than usual, but the kind of loud that came with silences between stares. Lena stepped off the elevator and instantly felt it. The glances, the whispered comments that stopped just short of being audible. She walked to her desk with measured calm, even as every step felt like it echoed. Her name was now a currency in the building. Some used it with admiration, others with doubt, and a few with disdain. She sat down, opened her laptop, and immediately saw it. Someone had printed out her article, scribbled "Pity Peace" across the top in red pen, and left it on her keyboard. Her chest tightened. She looked around. No one met her eyes. Before she could move, a soft voice called her name. Lena, you got a minute. It was Miles. He stood by the hallway to the conference rooms, motioning gently with his head. She followed him down the hall, past glass walls and busy editors, into a room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline. He shut the door quietly behind them. You okay? He asked. I'm fine, she replied quickly, but her voice betrayed her. It's just a lot. Miles nodded. Success paints a target, especially when it looks different than people expect. Lena's shoulders sagged. It wasn't supposed to be about me. But it was, he said, because you wrote it, and because people saw a version of themselves they weren't ready to admit exists. She looked out at the city below, its towers glinting like cold metal truths. I heard from the board, he added. Some are pushing back. They're worried your piece crosses editorial tone, and that it's emotionally indulgent. Lena winced. So, they want me to stop? No, Miles said, folding his arms. They want you to dilute it. She turned to face him. And you? He hesitated, then gave her the smallest smile. I want you to write louder. Her breath caught in her throat. Start a series, he said. Run with it. I'll shield it with my name if I have to, but don't let them scare you into silence. But Abby, she hasn't been back. I can't find her. Then start with the others, he said. There are more. You see them. That's what makes you different. Lena felt something shift inside her. Not courage, not yet, but a beginning, a crack of light where fear had lived. She nodded. Okay. As she left the conference room, Miles added, Oh, and you have a new desk. She blinked. I do. Right outside my office, he said without turning around. It's easier to protect the good ones when they're closer. Back at her cubicle, the red-penned insult had vanished. Someone had quietly removed it, and when she sat down to write again, the whispers didn't matter, because she had a louder voice now, and it was just getting started. 2 weeks passed, and Lena's life no longer fit the version she used to know. The intern desk was gone. Now she sat just outside Miles Thatcher's glass office, surrounded by shelves of published profiles and prestigious awards that felt surreal to breathe near. She had launched her new series, Unseen and Undone, and it had taken off like wildfire. Her inbox was flooded with pitches, letters, confessions from strangers whose stories had never been told. Shelter directors, burned-out nurses, gig workers. People who lived in the corners of the city's vision were now finding their way into her articles. But not Abby. Lena checked the shelter every few days, always asking, always hoping. The last time, a staff member had said, We think she's couch surfing now. Maybe with a guy, but no one's sure. Abby had become a ghost again, and Lena hated the guilt it brought. Had the article scared her off? Had the spotlight been too much? One gray afternoon, a package arrived at her desk. No return label, just her name in messy handwriting and a strip of duct tape sealing it. Inside was a spiral notebook, torn edges, water-damaged pages. Took her a second, but then she saw it. My name is Avi, not short for anything. I hate my middle name, so don't ask. I like writing when no one's looking, and sometimes I talk to birds like they're people. Lena gasped. It was the notebook. Avi's notebook. The one that had been stolen. Every page was filled with messy, beautiful poetry. Drawings. Lyrics. Thoughts that flipped from rage to wonder like light switching angles. And taped inside the back cover was a folded receipt from a bodega in Queens, dated 2 days ago. Lena's fingers trembled as she flipped the paper. A note was scrawled in the margins. You wrote me better than I knew I could be. That scared the hell out of me. But thank you for not making me sound broken. Lena closed the notebook and pressed it to her chest, blinking against the sting in her eyes. Just then, Miles stepped out of his office, coffee in hand. He saw her face and paused. She found you? He asked softly. No, Lena whispered. She reminded me that I already had. Miles didn't say anything, just placed a sticky note on her desk. Featured deadline Friday. Title suggestion. The notebook that found its voice. He winked and walked away, and Lena sat at her desk, ready to turn Avi's words into a story the city couldn't ignore. The article dropped Friday morning, quietly at first, but by noon, the notebook that found its voice was trending on multiple platforms. Lena didn't refresh anymore. She couldn't. The numbers didn't matter as much as what came after. Comments poured in. Heartfelt, raw, angry, hopeful. My sister was like Avi. Thank you for telling the world what that looks like. My teenage daughter read this and cried. We're going to a poetry open mic tonight. This girl's words saved me this morning. It wasn't just an article anymore. It was a ripple. That afternoon, Lena stopped by a small salon near her apartment. Her hair had grown uneven. Like the rest of her life, it had changed shape without warning. The bell above the door jingled as she stepped in. Blow dryers hummed. A few clients looked up then back down. She sat near the corner, waiting quietly with a magazine she didn't open. The door jingled again. Laughter. Heels. Jade Mercer walked in, flanked by 2 friends. Her hair perfect, lips bright coral. She walked like she owned the air around her. Lena stiffened. Jade saw her immediately. Well, she said, her voice silky but loud. If it isn't Whitmore's new pet project. A few heads turned. Jade walked over, crossing her arms with a smug grin. I'm honestly impressed, Lena. All this attention from a few pity pieces and moody prose. What's next? A GoFundMe for birds? Lena didn't respond. Not because she couldn't, but because she had learned that silence, used well, could be louder than any retort. Jade's smile faltered. No clapback, she teased. And then, a quiet voice cut through the buzz. Are we interrupting your therapy session, Jade? Everyone turned. Miles Thatcher stood in the doorway. No suit, just a simple dark shirt and jeans. But he carried the same weight, the same undeniable presence. Jade blinked. Miles, I didn't know you. He walked past her, straight to Lena, and offered her a folded newspaper. Her article was on the front page of Whitmore's Weekend Review section. She deserves better than whisper campaigns, he said calmly, eyes still on Lena. And you, frankly, deserve to be irrelevant by now. The room went still. Jade turned red. Her voice vanished. Lena looked up at him, stunned. And he added, gently but clearly enough for everyone to hear. She's the most extraordinary writer I've ever worked with. The day people stop mocking kindness is the day we finally start becoming human again. He looked at the salon staff. Carry on. Then, before he left, he leaned closer to Lena. Sorry to crash your haircut. Lena smiled for the first time all day. You crashed it beautifully. The library wasn't fancy. just a forgotten room on the top floor of a community center near Brooklyn Bridge Park. But Lena saw it as a blank page, a place waiting to be written into something new. The walls had been repainted, soft blue. There were no marble floors or antique shelves, just secondhand books, mismatched chairs, and large windows that let sunlight pour across cheap wooden tables. But it was enough, and the kids made it feel alive. Children from nearby shelters and foster homes sat cross-legged on rainbow-colored rugs. Some clutched books too tightly, others fidgeted, unsure. A few leaned against the walls, arms folded, hardened by life already. But all of them were there. Lena stood at the front, holding a well-worn spiral notebook. Avi's notebook. This, she said, was written by a girl who didn't think anyone would care about her story. But she wrote it anyway. She paused. And now, people around the world have read her words. The room hushed. A boy in the back raised a hand. Is she gonna be famous now? Lena smiled. Maybe, but more important, her words already made someone feel less alone. That's power, too. Miles watched from the doorway. He hadn't missed a single session since Lena began these weekly workshops. He never spoke much, just helped set up the snacks, brought extra notebooks, and sat with the kids who didn't know how to start. After the class, as the sun dipped low over the river, Lena and Miles walked outside. The trees lining the sidewalk rustled in a gentle breeze. She came by, Miles said suddenly. Last night. Lena stopped walking. Avi, he nodded. Didn't say much, just left a note. He handed it to her. Thanks for not writing me like a victim. Thanks for building something with your words. I'm not ready to be seen again, but when I am, I'll come back. Lena folded the note slowly, her chest heavy with hope. She doesn't need to come back right away, she said. She already started something bigger than either of us. They walked in silence for a while, until Miles spoke again. You know, he said, I used to think journalism was about impact, changing policies, headlines, breaking systems open. But lately, I think it's about doors. Doors. He nodded. Yeah, quiet ones. You opened one for Avi, and now you're holding it open for others. Lena smiled. I guess that's all I ever wanted. Miles stopped then, in front of a bench shaded by a blooming magnolia tree. He turned to her, pulled something from his bag. A gift-wrapped notebook. Red leather. Blank. For your next chapter, he said. Lena took it gently, ran her fingers along the cover. I don't know where it starts yet, she admitted. You will, he said. Just write like you live, soft but unshakable. She opened the first page, scribbled something quickly, then showed it to him. Chapter 1. We didn't change the world, but we opened a door. He laughed quietly. I'd read that. The two of them sat there as the sun sank lower, the sky folding into soft pinks and golds. And somewhere, a girl who once stood beneath an awning in the rain picked up a pen again. A year later, the library walls were no longer empty. They were covered with framed pages. Stories written by the kids who once sat silently on that rug. Some were poems about hope. Others were short stories about monsters that turned out to be misunderstood. One was a comic about a girl who made friends with her shadow. Lena stood beneath them, organizing donated books onto the shelves. She wore a denim jacket covered in smudges of ink and a name tag the kids had made from glitter paper, Miss Lena Word Wizard. Outside the library window, a familiar figure leaned against a tree, notebook in hand. Avi. She didn't come inside, not yet, but she waved, a small, quiet wave. And Lena waved back without a word, her heart full. Miles arrived a few minutes later with 2 large boxes of blank journals and a sleepy smile. You really think they'll keep writing after the program ends? He asked. Lena looked around the room. The shelves, the giggles, the open notebooks waiting to be filled. They already are, she said. We just reminded them their voices matter. He nodded, placed the boxes down, then pulled out his phone. What are you doing? She asked, amused. Buying a domain, he said. TejitoOrStaysOpen.org. She blinked, surprised. Seriously? Miles smiled. You built the place. I'm just giving it a digital home." Lena laughed softly and leaned back against a shelf. Her eyes drifted to the ceiling fan spinning lazily above, then to the warm light filtering through the windows. No fame, no spotlight, just the quiet magic of lives being written into existence. And the door still open, always open. Before we close, let's take a moment to pray. May we all be protected from arrogance and misjudgment, and may we all be protected from harm and injustice in our daily lives. May this story inspire us to treat others with empathy, no matter what they look like or where they come from. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more meaningful stories. Let us know in the comments. Have you ever surprised someone with your hidden strength? We'd love to hear your story. Thank you for listening, and remember, the strongest people often look like the quietest ones. Until next time, stay strong, stay humble, and stay true.